And welcome back to Sullivan's Backstage Pass. We're here with Cryptic Devon Divination. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
us.
having us. We're excited
Nice
to be here.
So I just want to acknowledge one thing right off the bat, right? Your lead into Feigned Absolutions is fire. Like the tension that builds up and the process and journey that you take, like when you make that like crescendo of like that slow riff into that intense, like, damn, dude, like, ha. So the first question, I guess, go down the line, like, how did you all get started in music in the first place? Go ahead and start with Jesse, if you don't mind.
I've always loved music, and so I just initially I played guitar, and then played guitar for a pretty long time. Learned a lot of Mastodon and just covers and stuff. Um, then I met this guy through a Twitch channel watching Scott Carstairs from Fallujah. It was very random, and found out he was local and he was like trying to get a band going, and I was like, yeah, let's fucking hang out and do some stuff. And here we are. It ended up being pretty cool, pretty nice dude, as well as these guys. But yeah.
How about you, Sebastian?
I've played guitar now for maybe 21 years. My dad was never much of a guitar player, but always had a guitar around, and I got inspired to pick it up. And then one day I found like his old vocal processor and like plugged that into the guitar amp and tried to sing some Creed, and now I'm here.
Poof.
And how about you, Chris?
My dad was a guitar player growing up, but then one day like impulsively bought a drum set, and so I picked it up when I was like 7. So now I've been playing drums for 19-ish years, and I've been, through school and stuff. I was in all the music programs, and outside of school, I've been in several bands. I'm currently actually in 2 other bands right now. So the music's just always kind of been like a huge part of my life.
And how about you, Nikki?
Yeah, for me, I've also been playing guitar since I was about 8 years old. My dad has always been a bass player and guitar player, trying to get me into playing myself. But what really kind of changed it for me was the movie School of Rock in 2003. That was, my dad took me to see that movie and then got me like a crappy Japanese SG clone, and that was it. It was all over.
Oh yeah, I played bass too, by the way. I don't. We all said we played. Wait a minute. What do I actually do? Yeah, I played bass.
So how did this band come together?
So Naoki and I have played music together for like 16-ish years. We met at a talent show in middle school, and we first started like playing like Iron Maiden covers, and then started writing our own songs and played together for quite a few years. And then that had kind of run its course, and sometime after that, I tried to rope him back into the game. So tried to bait him with some riffs, and those riffs eventually became some songs, some riffs we still play. And then it was a little bit before we found like the right people to play with, because it's like it's important to me that everybody's like can play the stuff, but it's like also the intangible thing of like you want to be able to get along, you want to be able to work well together, and like the process. So it's really serendipitous meeting Jesse on Twitch, like he described earlier, and then Chris and Jesse worked together, and yeah, the first time we jammed, it was what it was. Like it clicked, and now we're Ultron.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when it doesn't click, and I think that we tried to play with a couple people throughout
Mm-hmm.
the time before we met Chris, and that didn't end up working out. But in this current iteration, I couldn't imagine any one of us being a different person now.
And you kind of hit on the question I love to ask musicians as they come on the podcast. And this is more for the other musicians that are listening. How important is it that you all get along together off stage? Because it has an impact when you play together on stage, right?
I personally think it's detrimental, absolutely. Like if you don't get along with somebody, the process for writing music or learning music becomes such a tedious process, between disagreements or making decisions on the arrangement process. A lot of times when you don't get along with somebody, it can turn into some kind of petty argument and it's just not fun. Or on stage, if you don't get along with them off stage, the chemistry on stage just doesn't work well. And at some point when you force it, you're just sacrificing parts of the show that, uh, you know, effectively you're letting your audience down.
Yeah, it's also just like not as fun. Like, why would you want to do something around people you don't really want to hang out with?
Mm,
I've never had to deal with that, but I can, relate to that because it's just like working with people you don't want to work with. It's like, oh God, I gotta do this. But like, yeah, it's been a blessing that I haven't really had to think about that. And
mhm.
it's always, we're kind of like a hangs first, obviously hangs and music's first, but like, want to hang out and get to know each other and have a good time.
We definitely have those days where we get together to practice, and the only thing we practice is drinking beers.
Yeah, it's like this. Gotta do my life.
Yeah, man. Beers with the boys.
Yeah.
I love everything about that. So I guess my next question is about the genre, right? Because you could have picked any genre of music to sort of tie into. What is it about this rock sort of thrash, sort of in your face metal that you love so much?
Yeah, I think, in my mind, like, we just make music that we want to listen to. Like, I don't feel like it's like we made a decision to where it's like we're gonna do this prog death metal with this rock influence with this and that. Like, I think that, it's just the music that we feel compelled to write and that we all just collectively can care and an excitement for. And like I think it also has these just different elements because we all do kind of listen to a lot of different things. Like I like a lot more black metal or this or that, but whereas like Jesse was saying he likes like Mastodon. So it's like, it just kind of ends up having because it's no one person's thing, it just has this perspective from multiple people and then we just make the music that we want to play.
Yeah, and I think that I've been a metalhead my entire life. I've never really been into that many other genres of music growing up, and so this is definitely the music that I want to be playing. It's the music that I want to be listening to. And, we do have those moments where we're coming up with riffs, and maybe somebody will have a riff and that's not a cryptic riff, and that's okay. And then I think our music, though, also is evolving. So the stuff that we're working on now doesn't sound like the stuff that we were working on 2 years ago.
I think that's legit, right? Because sometimes when music calls you, it just calls you and you never know what direction it's going to go, which kind of ties into my next question, which is about the muse. Because I do feel like the muse is a living, breathing thing. So, as a band, when the muse visits you, how do you capture that?
We definitely have a Discord together, and it's the Cryptic Riff Nation, and it's a lot of
That's what it's called? Oh, no. Oh, look at that.
it's a lot of really unflattering camera pictures. It's like shirtless, like playing a riff acoustically on electric guitar. And, definitely it's kind of, it's like, you get a good response from that, it's a good riff. But like, I think when you're writing, like, yeah, like it is when the muse visits you and you never know where that's gonna be. It could be in the shower, it could be, where we're doing whatever, but also like showing up to be creative, like, not always working for the perfect opportunities. Like, that's the thing where it's like I kind of call it mining, where it's like, not every riff is a good riff. They don't all work, but it's like showing up and like, to where it's like, if 2 out of 10 are good, like if you make 50, you're gonna have, I don't know, 4.
Can have something.
There's no judgment for public math here, by the way. Go ahead, Jesse. You're going to say something.
Yeah, we use the Discord and Yeah, it's just all about having like an open mind and realizing that like you bring it to the band and we're all gonna have input and you got to be open to the input and like we're in it for like the best interests of the song as well as ourselves because you know art's kind of it's pretty selfish. So it's like the most important thing is that we all like it.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, you just got to be willing to change with it. I feel like even if it doesn't have to, but like the willingness to do that, I think
Yeah.
is pretty key.
I feel like it's like your baby is now adopted by 4 dads. We each have our own opinions.
Yeah, they usually turn out pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And like, you know, we there's songs that you know, are contributed to by different people in different ways, and I think that embracing the things that are not natural to me myself, that are natural to the others, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's not something that I ever would have thought. And you know, even if I did think about it, I might not have put it out there to into the group chat because I didn't think it was going to be some way or another, but it really is. And I think that just embracing what all of these guys think is a good idea is actually a good idea.
And my next question is for the drummer in particular, because it's one of those things that blows my mind. How the heck do you keep time with all of these changing time signatures? Like, how do you do it?
So honestly, I don't really know how to answer that question. I mean, it's just a matter of how long I've been doing it. Um, you know, I'm 26. I've been playing for about 19 of those years. So it's effectively my entire life. It's what's surrounded my life for so long. At this point, like, not to sound conceited or anything, but it's just kind of second nature. Even as like a toddler before I ever started playing drums, my babysitters would get mad because I'd be like tapping on my high chair or whatever. Uh, After I started playing drums, like I also have like severe ADHD. So like my teachers would pull me out of class and stuff because I'd be tapping on my desk and disturbing the other students. And uh, yeah, I mean, as far as how I keep time with all the changing fields and whatnot, I just kind of send it. You know, I just try not to think too hard about it because once I think too hard about it, that's when I start tensing up and flubbing things. A huge part of playing drums is just staying loose. Because if you tense up and overwork, that's when it's going to get sloppy. It's going to fall apart. You're going to miss hits. You're going to hit things weird. It's going to sound weird. Uh, if you're too tense, you start breaking stuff, sticks, cymbals, drum heads. So I mean, just staying loose and listening to the song, I guess.
I got something I want to add to that because when before we started playing with Chris is amazing, by the way. Before we started playing with Chris, we had a song with some time changes that we had kind of mapped out in our DAW to program some drums to, and the human feel of working those things out in the room, I think it is so much more productive, and we're able to get through those time changes in a better, more efficient way than trying to think it through logically and program it in the DAW.
Yeah, like I do think that there's a lot to like, is this a technically perfect thing? Or is it like this illusion that's kind of better than the perfect reality? Like I think that it's like we rehearse a lot and it's like, yeah, maybe this doesn't like this slows down at this weird kind of rate, but it's all sounds tight because it's all together and it's all kind of intentional. Like it maybe isn't technically perfect because we don't play to a click or anything, but like, it's reflective. And that's where I think like also like kind of the art is in it.
And I appreciate that you say that, right? Because I can tell when I listen to your album that you put in the work. Like you would just throw out an album in there. No, you all did the work. Like you can tell that you've practiced, you've communicated, you've done all of those steps. And so I just wanted to acknowledge just how awesome that EP that you put out is.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
and so uh, my next question is about like the live performance piece, right? What is it about performing live in front of an audience that you love?
I guess for me, I'll kick it off. For me, it's like once I'm on stage and the show is starting, uh, just being in that room where nobody's problems matter at that moment. You know, you're all there for the same reason. It's unifying. It's freeing, you know. Like one of my classmates in high school asked me a similar question. And honestly, it's just like when I get up on stage, nothing but the music matters. Anything that I'm worried about, anything I'm stressed about, it ceases to exist.
I'm a pretty introverted person. I don't typically seek out crowds unless it's for a purpose. I will say though that since we've started playing live again, it's helped me really enjoy going out and being, out with people, because, these are all people that it's a community, and we all kind of believe in the same thing. And it allows me to feel like I can really be myself in that moment.
Yeah, honestly, I like just playing with my friends more than the people that are present. I do appreciate them and I acknowledge and like love that they love what we're doing, but I just like playing really loud and like locking in and like kind of feeling the pressure, but also knowing that you got this, like it's a really good feeling and it's a lot of fun. Like, we played I kind of realized this when we opened for Yob at like a sold out Wow Hall show. It's like our local kind of one of our bigger venues. And there was a lot of people there. And I realized like up there on the stage, I was like, I kind of don't really like, I'd rather just play with these guys, which is what I do, but, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I haven't really thought about that too much, but yeah.
Yeah, I like just the chemistry of the moment, like obviously we have played a lot of these songs, probably hundreds of times, but like every bit is a little different. Like I can't really we're not like ultra rigid, so there is, it's like, oh man, this is a little bit different feel. Like, oh, we kind of anticipated this bit a little bit more, and like, oh, that was a cool, like it's playful, like you're having fun in a moment, and like again, like just playing with my favorite people, like I enjoy playing with each of them individually, and that's really fulfilling. But it's also like an interesting space to like have like almost a different persona. Like I like to be just really nice and like try to be humble and like not take up too much space. And then you play in this, you're singing in a death metal band and like kind of in that like while you're doing it, being like, I'm him, like I'm the best at this, like I am here to fucking crush everything and everyone and kind of just like, yeah, have almost like an alter ego in a moment kind of a thing.
And one of the things that I appreciate, because I watch the YouTube that you all have on your website, and one of the things that I always watch for when I'm watching bands on stage is that nonverbal communication between band members.
Mhm.
And you all have a different way of talking without talking on stage. Is that something that sort of you've come over time, or have you
Mhm.
talked about that?
I think it's more of like a familiarity with who you play with.
Mhm.
The more you play with them, the more you can kind of like, like see what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I always lock in with Chris really well, and it's like I know when he's cooking up something cool like that's on the spot. And I'm always
Mhm.
like kind of looking at him like, oh hell yeah, like
Mhm.
I don't know, but it goes all over. It's like you kind of acknowledge it just because you've been there before, and then you're like this. Yeah, you just you acknowledge it, and it's just because of that familiarity you can notice it, and then they notice it too because obviously
Mhm.
it's all happening. So
Yeah. I mean, it's like you look for like, oh, there's a key, like, are we gonna start this next piece? Like, and all these other things. But it's definitely like, I look, okay, I know Naoki's ready, but it's just like you're just watching the drum. I mean, the drummer runs everything. So it's just like, like, are we gonna go? Because when he says go, it's like, I got it.
I can't not go.
We definitely have improved a lot,
Yeah.
since our first show too. I want to give us credit that our onstage communication probably for that first show was in some aspects non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
because we really had only done it in the practice room. But now that we've a couple dozen shows under our belt, I feel like oh, when we're up on stage, there are things that I'm looking for and I'm
Mhm.
expecting, eye contact, or even as far as like Sebastian said, listening for those count-ins from Chris, so that way I don't have to be turned around looking at him when he starts the songs. They're just things that take practice.
And they're like with the count-ins and stuff, like I'm constantly looking at everyone else, like looking at their boards, seeing if anybody's tuning still. I'm listening to Sebastian communicating with the crowd, doing the whole crowd work chit chat thing, which I fucking love it. But yeah, like it's uh it all just kind of happens naturally, like, over the last couple of years, like Naoki was saying, it's like those couple dozen shows, we've all kind of picked up a little bit on each other's nuances. There were a couple things in certain songs over time that we briefly talked about, like, I think in Purgatory Contemplation, we briefly covered like cues for the different changes. But that's like all at this point gone by the wayside. We just kind of listen and just kind of feel it out together.
Mm-hmm.
The more we talk about it, I think the more we mess it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like there is sometimes where it's like, we write out the set list before and it's like, oh, we're gonna go from this song to this song, and like we have a printout and all of that stuff. But there's times like so we never talked about it in the moment where it's like, oh, I'm actually like I start this song and I'm gonna play this little bit before this bit. But again, we're also familiar where it's like, I know that isn't gonna mess anybody up in their like count-ins and stuff, like, and it's like kind of again, you know the people that you're playing with. Like it's a product of practice and familiarity but also like professionalism.
I feel like I can also tie this back into the importance of getting along and being friends off stage. Because like without that friendship and level of chemistry that we have, like as a group, that on-stage communication would not be as efficient.
Third and fourth.
Yeah, because a
Yeah.
lot of the communication isn't from you. It's usually like, oh, that was sick. Oh, that was really cool.
Yeah,
That was cool, man.
looking over each other, like giving the nod, the stank
Yeah.
face,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm curious about too, so like as you're playing and you're looking out in the crowd, what are some of the signs you're looking for from the audience so that you know that they're liking what you're offering?
If you see anybody bobbing their head, you know you're doing good. If people are just standing still or like just chatting amongst themselves, they're probably not that interested. But even like an element where you're not necessarily the focal point, not to draw away from this band, but in one of my other bands, we do a lot of like backyard parties and cover shows. We did this show at a Elks Lodge, I think, one time, and people were like in the back doing their thing, but everyone was bobbing their heads. And if people aren't doing that, I don't know, it just shows a level of disinterest, I guess.
I also, that I think that a lot of people associate with metal that like, moshing means people are enjoying your music. And I don't necessarily think that's the case with our band. I don't think that we're, a mosh band. And when I see people that are not necessarily, going crazy in the crowd, but they're really focused on what we're doing, that's a success to me. That's how I know that they're engaged in another way.
Yeah, I like to notice if they're being like silent but attentive. Like you can kind of tell if they're paying attention or not, or if they're just like having a drink or whatever, or trying to like just like I don't know,
Yeah.
push their earplugs in harder or something.
Uh-huh.
But like, yeah, it's more about attentiveness rather than like like if they're because it's like not what Naoki is saying. It's like there are moshing bits, but it's like you almost have to know where they're at.
Yeah. But there's people who are gonna find it wherever.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, I'm looking for more like the silent attentiveness, that we have their attention and that they're like, oh, like they're kind of like the little head nod thing like a dog does, if they're like, kind of something like that.
For sure, yeah, and like I mean, so like I sing, so it's like I'm kind of always like looking out, and so you can definitely just see like the direction, like are people facing you, like are they engaged? But then also like where are they in the room? We play like a lot of venues where it's like are they close by? Are they like I'm by the pool tables, like I'm trying to get some space, just interrupting my drinking at the bar, kind of a thing. And then yeah, I mean, and it's not like I'm not like it makes me feel a little self-conscious if I'm like cool people, people filming you, like they got the camera in their face, like, oh, I'm stoked that you're stoked about this, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned a little bit about the set list piece. So, do you usually stick to the set list, or do you kind of get a vibe for what the crowd is feeling and sometimes throw in a little change along the way?
Yeah, like there's sometimes where it's like you always gotta be dynamic and get like we really pride ourselves on being really professional and like sometimes things are running late, sometimes like and you need to play a condensed set, sometimes students, we need you to play 2 or 3 more songs. And so it's like being able to communicate with one another, like what are we gonna change in that type of sense. But then yeah, usually there's some like it's usually down to, yeah, like, oh, does that like, these people do like Tamara, so it's like maybe playing something like heavier kind of piece like that, or like these other guys, yeah, but this is more prog, or maybe we're gonna play this type of song. And then we have a couple covers like Bucket the Moon or The Trooper, where it's like, which one are we gonna play? Do you wanna play the Trooper tonight? Like, okay, let's do that.
And
I
then
think that
in
we
terms,
are,
but sorry.
from a set list perspective, we are more of a set list band than an audible band. But I think it's important to remain fluid and when it's necessary.
So necessary.
And the reason I bring this up is because, like, I love it. What I tell people is you go to shows when you want those little differences in the music performance, right? I love to listen to the album in its entirety. At the same time, when you go to the show, there's always going to be some improvisation from the guitar or from the bass player or the drummer, and those moments that I think are so special. So, like, do you ever have those moments where you're like feeling an extra solo or feeling an extra beat or those kind of moments?
I mean, I can improvise quite a bit. A lot of my parts I've orchestrated and I play it just about the same every time. But sometimes if I'm feeling a little spunky, I'll throw a little something, something, just having some fun. Not always successfully. Some sticks may or may not have ended up on the floor. But yeah, I mean, I like to mess around.
What?
Probably.
Yeah, but like when it comes to song structure, we are very much, I think, keep it the same. Like we're not gonna add bars, but there have been those times where I think we accidentally transition when before we need to, but we all kind of keep it together. We're all in sync and still rolls through, and nobody's the only people that know is us, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, and like I think because it's like maybe these parts where it's like there's plans info, it's like
Yeah, the little gaps.
Oh yeah. Like there's solos that there's solos that I'd write and play the same every time, and then there's solos that I don't write anything for and I play
yeah.
whatever every time.
And like for me, like I'm playing a lot of the like clean chordy parts, and like I know the chords I'm gonna play, but I like to just see what I'm gonna get lucky with. Like I don't play the same strumming pattern or like the same arpeggio sequence a lot. Like I'm gonna change some voicings and like to me those are spaces of just kind of reflecting like who are you again in this moment in the time, like because it kind of gives you a space where it's like nobody cares if you, I mean, maybe they do, but like, I didn't hear it this way on the album. It sounded like, you're like me, and it's like, oh, I like to kind of see these changes. So it's like sometimes where it's like, oh, normally I play this in like a descending kind of, where it's like, oh, I'll play it here, and then I'll play it here. And like, that to me is just also a chance to have fun. And then like singing, there's a ton of time where it's like, you don't sound the same day to day to day. And so sometimes it's like, you're going to do this more in a higher register, more of a mid register, more of a, like, oh, I can hit some better lows today. Like, that just sounds fun. And I'm going to try that here.
So, from a singer's perspective, like, talk a little bit about, like, how important it is to sort of not overexert your voice, because this is something, especially with a voice like yours, and, like,
hmm
how do you make sure that you're not overdoing it or causing yourself any damage to your vocal cords?
Yeah, I think that that's really is important. Like, not just from a health perspective, but also like, a tone perspective. Like when, I've been playing with Naoki for such a long time, but definitely in those first couple of years, like I remember, first show it's like, oh, first song real strong, but like you were so excited, and then now you did thrash your voice kind of a thing. And then your tone suffers for the rest of it. Like, you just can't, you have breaks and stuff. But then also like a lot of the stuff that I do is really measured. Like you have to like if you like I call it pushing it. Like so when you're doing extreme vocals, you have, your regular vocal cords and you have your false vocal cords or false chords. And that's kind of what you're oscillating. And you can in the way I envision it, you can like have different levels of resistance, and then you kind of counter that with a little bit more air than that. So there's times where it's just like, you need to kind of match and have a good ratio across the spectrum of sounds that you're gonna make. Like there's things that require pushing more air, and there's things that require pushing less air. But again, that's where you're gonna have the kind of failure is usually it's gonna be you're kind of fatigued from trying to hold back pushing that much air. And so it's just like to me, it's like I'm following a quality of sound type of thing, and like I can. It's harder for me to talk continuously than to do like the death metal stuff. Like that's really very in the pocket, and like, I'm more worried about before a show, like talking too much. So that's like kind of where I also maybe don't socialize that much before the show, because that's where I'm really going to be wearing down my voice is like, yep, yelling above the stuff. And like, that's where I get tired.
And then in terms of like the recording process itself, do you record like as a live performance together? Do you record like separately? What's the path that you chose to record your EP?
So for this EP, the way we recorded it is we did drums in the studio, and the way we recorded the drums, which was at Sproutsy, yeah. Basically, Sebastian and I were playing guitars DI into the audio interface, and Chris is isolated in the booth with the drums, and we recorded all the drums like that. And then we recorded all of the rest of the instruments here at home on our own time.
And kudos to the sound quality you all got on that one too, right? It is tight. It is tight. And so the other question I have is in terms of venues, something I like to ask every band that comes on the podcast. If you were to be able to talk to venues and say if there was one thing they could do that would help you as a performing artist live on stage, what would that be?
Mm. I think like we are really blessed to have great relationships with some really special venues, and I really treasure that. There's only been a few instances where, like, to me, I think the one thing you can have is like everybody needs to be like going for the same goal, to where it's just like I think everybody needs to be having the same agenda of like having a successful night. And when venues uh set maybe unrealistic parameters or X, Y, or Z that logistically
Yeah.
hinders the process, it doesn't help anyone out. Like, who cares? Like, again, like I don't really try to have like, so some places where it's like, oh, this is a historic place, we have an ego, you need to fight tooth and nail to get in this, where it's like, you know, treat everybody with dignity and respect, and like help everybody try to have a good show. Not everybody has the same background as you. Like, maybe you think this is standard communication here, but like, just try to help everybody be the best that they can be, is my
Yeah,
one thing.
kindness goes a long way.
Yeah.
And it's obviously some people have certain days, things happen or
Mhm.
whatever, but it's always nice when, the door guy is actually pleasant and like,
We'll hold the door for
yeah,
you.
well, like
Yeah.
hold just the little things kind of, like be a gentleman and all that jazz. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, never really thought about that one. I guess we'll know when it happens. We'll be like, whoa, that was sick, like.
I think that for me, it's about trust,
Mhm.
and like when you're at a venue or you're talking to a sound person, like having the trust go both ways, to where it's like, trust that we know how we can sound the best, as well as like, I trust that you know how to make this venue sound the best, and not necessarily trying to fit either side into a box because, you know, X, Y, and Z fit into that same box last night.
I have
And-
nothing to add. Y'all hit all the points.
And the reason I bring it up is because I really want venues to understand that this is a partnership with musicians. And when you take that approach, like this is a win-win, we're here to support each other, it leads to better music. And when you have better music, better fans, and it has this ripple effect. And like you said, it kind of starts with kindness, but also that extra added, like we're in this together, folks. Like there's no music without venue, there's no venue without music. And so it's this partnership that really needs to be embraced. And then as you're setting up and getting ready, how much do you pay attention to volume and dynamics when you perform?
I think that makes or breaks the performance, because like I've seen a lot of bands where they're all at once, all the time in your face, and it gets kind of fatiguing after a while. Or on the flip side, I've seen bands that are too chill through their whole set. And at that point, it kind of gets a little like boring or mundane. It's really important because at the end of the day, when when you're putting on that show, it's a theatrical performance in a sense. You have to have these ebbs and flows where it's like really intense sometimes, to like, you know, build that tension, and then that fall to release the tension and kind of bring it back to a chill level, and then have it rise again. It's like riding a roller coaster. You know, you gotta have the ups and downs, or like you know, sailing on a boat. If it doesn't have that ebb and flow, at some point it just becomes uninteresting in one way or another.
But even I think, I mean, absolutely, especially when you talk about the way you construct a set list and the way you sequence songs, even the way you write different songs to be, say, you know, you don't want to just be a one note, a one trick pony in a sense. But I think that technically speaking, we, you know, we all embrace digital rigs, except for Chris, of course. So we all go direct into the front of house. And here in the room, in our practice space, we all have very dialed in levels, and I think that helps a lot, because when we put our gear on stage, we know that when our knobs are set the way they are, that we are all leveled with each other, and then it's basically front of house's jobs to get us all leveled through front of house.
Yeah, and some of those patches do have different output levels, like, you know, so that maybe the heavy riff does sound a little heavier, like, you know, or when your solo has to poke out a little bit, but they are all, like Malky said, very centered around balance and that kind of a thing. But there is those moments where it's like, yeah, you know, it's kind of like the big the boost where it's like you know, it needs the heavy part. This needs the feedback to ring out. This needs more going on.
And then now we get to the part that is what I think is my favorite part of this podcast. And I want to go down the line, and we're going to start with Jesse. And I want to hear from the other band members. What do you love about Jesse as part of your band?
Oh man, Jesse the Honorable. Jesse's the best. Like, I mean, there's no but like I think that again, none of us we're all band forwards, but I think that one of my favorite things about like working with Jesse is Jesse's very much like whatever the problem is, whatever we need to work on, he's always really willing and eager to chip in and like help. Where it's like, oh, we're trying to write riffs, like we're writing riffs, and like it's never like I think that it's just such a good dynamic. Like he's such a creative person and also just such a great guy that it's like whatever we need to work on, and you know, he's always down to help, and it's always going to be just a great time. And like I don't know, no, I've never had any bad experiences ever with Jesse. Like it's always just so pleasant, and like, you know, just every time I'm excited to hang out with him.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of add to that, he's a genuinely just incredibly nice dude. Um, like always just such a joy to be around, goofy as shit sometimes. Just a great guy to drink beers and laugh with, and he's always like, as long as I've known him, he's just always been so encouraging about like, anything you want to try and do. And then like working with him is super easy. He's always got these options. He's loves options.
Got a lot of
Yeah.
options.
Just like throwing out options left and right. And then like, yeah, he's a problem solver for sure.
Jesse really is a man of the people, even from the fact that when I met Jesse, you weren't a bass player, like that, you really filled that role for us. And you kind of, you are maybe the most open-minded of us musically, because I think about myself and I know that I'm a little bit rigid sometimes, and you really helped me break out of that box in ways that I didn't think that I would be able to on my own.
For sure. Yeah, even like also like music contributions. Like there's so many like, Jesse brings in so many riffs, and like a lot of them are like, oh, this isn't a cryptic riff, but then so many of them now where it's like some of my personal just favorite parts are parts that Jesse wrote.
Thanks, guys.
And then next we'll go with Sebastian.
Sebastian, fucking love this guy. He's pretty good. He is a voice of the fucking demon. That's all I gotta say.
In the body of an angel.
Yeah, he's always pleasant. He's very like emotionally mature, I feel like. So he's always understanding where you're coming from if you ever talk about anything. Which is something kind of rare, I feel like, in these days. Which is it's just really nice to know that people like that are out there and you can meet them on the internet even. It's like, what the hell did this come from? I love his like the your country freaking quiet, like not quiet, I don't know. Like the clean roofs, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, I love all of those. I think they're all amazing. And yeah, you're always just such a pleasure to work with. And yeah, even if you're like sick and trying not to poop yourself on stage, you're still gonna be there. You're still a rock, dude. Like you're there, and yeah. Not to mention, you're pretty fun. I'll give you that.
I was holding my breath. It's called me killing fighting.
So Sebastian's my boo. Dude, so nice all the time. Like even when things go wrong, like he always just has such a good attitude about things. And like he's always kind of watching and observing what's going on. And if there's something weird going on socially he doesn't like, he vocalizes it, but not in like an angry or like disrespectful way. It's always like looking out for the little guy kind of way. And playing with him, like the dude just locks in so hard. Like to be able to lock in that well with the rhythm guitar, with the drums and bass, and sing on top of that is unreal, especially with that style of vocals. Like I can't even scream, let alone scream and play. It's unreal.
Sebastian is honestly, we've known each other for so long that you are more like a brother than you are to a friend. To me, like there's very few people on this earth that understand me like you do, and that's something that I'm so grateful for. And even musically, it's almost hard to talk about you in the context of music because I've known you in so many other facets of life, but there's just nobody else that I would rather be in a band with, spend days a week with than Sebastian.
And then next we have Chris.
Chris is he's an excellent person. He's all over the place. It's the best thing about it. He can literally pick up anything and like know what's going on basically. Like he can just show him a riff and he'll like tell you what the hell it is like musically, and you're like, what the okay, that's awesome. On top of that, he's a pretty funny, goofy person to be around. Good person. Fucking beats the drums really good. He likes cars.
I do like cars. That's pretty cool.
But Yeah, it's always even if he like messes like a piece of his gear or something, he'll freaking mob back home real quick and get it and make sure the trip with his on.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't be a band without you.
Oh, for real. Yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, I guess first, like, I'll talk about playing with Prince is incredible. Like, that's, I get, like, drums are just so important. And, like, there's that where it's like, kind of when Chris was saying that you just gotta send it. And, like, I think that that's so true. Like, I think one of the things where it's like, when you play music, like, apprehensively and you're tiptoeing, like, it isn't a good representation, and it sounds, like, unconfident, and, like, I think, with like, it always sounds like even if, "Oh, this didn't go as intended," did we do something weird? Is this all like, it's always really quickly, like, nothing falls off, nothing feels, like, up in the air, and we all can lock in really quickly, and, like, that to me is, like, just essential, like, and then I do, like, really love a lot of his parts. You kind of talked about some of that like rock influence, and like we had these songs, some things like before we started playing with Chris. I'm like, I had a concept of how they were gonna go, and then he has such a different lexicon and such a different background. But when everything came together, you're like, oh, actually, like I think this is really cool. Like we have one song that has this really classic like trem part, but then like he has like a cool just like a ride groove over it, and you're like, I never would have expected. And again, now that's like one of my favorite part kind of the thing. And like Justin was saying, you can kind of just play these things like, and he has a part, and like he's also some brainstormer. It's like he doesn't get too stagnant or anything. Like I think one of the best parts about when you're creative is like, sometimes your first instinct is the right choice. A lot of the time it is, but that doesn't mean you can stop like brainstorming and projecting, because then it's like, oh, now this was actually really cool. And I'm going to take that. So it's like, I like writing with Chris. I mean, I like writing with everybody, but it's really, again, like really down to we're gonna cycle this, we're gonna do it, and then like, oh, I've come up with these parts, and like I like them. Like he's just great to write with, great on stage. But then hanging out, you talk about the muse. Oh, it's just no, that's like a guy. He's fun. Like he's definitely like he's the youngest of the group, and like he's also the drummer. So it's like the energy. Like he's the lifeblood of the band in a lot of ways. I don't think we wouldn't be nearly as vibrant without his radiance.
Agree. I definitely second that aspect of it. Chris brings a lot of energy to the band, but I kind of want to talk more about in the writing and how we write our music. Before we met Chris, I think that we struggled a lot because we're not drummers. And, it's really, really hard for me to think about drums and about, how are we going to handle these time signature changes? And so now that we, after Chris came along, it's actually allowed us to write more complicated things without having to think about the drums, without having to think about how we're going to navigate those changes, because Chris really, really naturally does those things and does them very well.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you can learn how to do double bass. You can't learn how to stay on time and, change time signatures and cadences without fucking it up,
Yeah. Yeah. No, like that's, I think with all of us, like, so great to us. Like, there's so much, like, again, I don't worry about it, and it's so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, of course, Chris, I love you just like I love Sebastian, just like I love Jesse. I love you all. But when I think about the music and about how we all have progressed as musicians, I think that, Chris has probably come the farthest in these last couple of years, because I'm very much the same player I was 2 years ago. And I know that
Even worse.
Arguably worse. Chris, I remember you kind of expressed a little bit of discomfort towards playing extreme metal music when you first joined because, you know, that was not something that was in your comfort zone. But now I think about how much better you are at that stuff. And
Mhm.
I couldn't think of it, imagine any other way.
And then last but definitely not least,
Nope, dog.
Nuki.
The Nope Dog. I'm gonna harken back to his rigidity. You know, it's actually a good thing because you can't have a form without, you know, being rigid somehow. And
Yeah.
it really like it makes the song like what it is, and it's awesome. Like he's like one of the best guitar players I've ever had the pleasure of playing with. The stuff he comes up with, you're like, wait, what? And then he went. It's funny because he'll come up with something and be like, wait, what? I don't understand. And then Chris will like start playing drums with it. I'm like, oh, that's how it works. And then you know, it'll just come together like that, and it's like amazing. He's got amazing chops, amazing person, amazing, just yeah. He's got all the assets and like yeah. Emphasis on the first part. No, but he's just amazing.
Great to look at.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I appreciate that. Like, you know, you can slacken a little for me on your rigidity, but also like I really appreciate that you do that
for sure.
because it's like it matters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd all be the pile of mush, you know. So,
Yeah. And it's all like so complimentary.
yeah, it is. It really is, and like, yeah, and it's just I'm at a loss of words, to be honest. Yeah. Your turn.
Yeah.
You're a great person. I love you.
Yeah. I'm just confessing my love to each of you.
Oh, shit.
Now it's like, but there's only 2 roses. Yeah, Note Dog, just yeah, he's like a brother to me. We've played together for such a long time, but then there's times where it's like we weren't even playing a lot of music. Like, you know, it's just great to get dinner with, to, you know, talk about what's bothering you. Like, again, it's so much where it's like, to me, it's like the band, being in a band is like almost I wouldn't say secondary part, but it's just like, oh, you know, it's cool that I also play in a band with my best friend kind of a thing. But like, such a good compliment, like playing together so long, like I never needed to be him. Like, you know, with playing, we both played guitar together and, you know, growing together, it's like, oh, he naturally does all of these things really well. Like, I should, you know, to me, like, you want to, diversity makes the team better and everything. Like, oh, you know, I also, I can be myself and do these things. And now I think, synergize really well. Like, he does write a lot of these really cool riffs, but then I think, like, oh, you know, how can I do different things that make these things better? And I think like vice versa, you know, I think that he makes a lot of the things that I write so much better. And like, you know, such a, like he is, it's such a shredder, and so great. But like, I think that, you know, he's really grown into like his creativity, as well. And like, you know, he's writing really cool stuff. So many of his solos, like, you know, I'm like, find really inspirational. And then he's also like a good compliment in the other parts about being a band, you know, like again, being a rigid asshole. No, but like, yeah, like he is, you know, he prints the sound that like, you know, he's got like, oh, is everybody going to be here at 2:30? And like,
The logistics.
He's saying I cracked the whip.
Super legit.
but it's again, it's really nice because it's like, you know, other things that I also know, it's like, oh, you know, doing these correspondences and stuff. And it's like, you know, to me, just such a really, where it's like, it's nice that I feel like we all get to do the stuff that we just love because I think with each other we can all fill in those kinds of gaps. And I think, you know, Naoki wears a lot of different hats in the band and, you know, he's a great asset. I remember something.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, dude's an absolute fucking ripper. Like, one of the absolute best guitar players I've ever met. And the dude is so you're so humble about it.
No, I'm not.
Like, I've met some guitar players that are like insane, but then they're dickheads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just like, You finish the solo, you're like, oh, I botched this and I botched this. Then you listen back, you're like, that was fucking sick, dude. You know? And like even while playing those insane leads, you still lock into the rest of the band so well. Like you'll be playing these like wicked fast legato runs, and then every individual 16th note, like on the sweep up, is just in time, just like right on the grid. You know, it's incredible. And like I haven't played with anybody like that. It's just it's not robotic 'cause you still have the human feel, but it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's just it's unreal, man. Unreal.
This pitch, his band, like his
Dude,
pitch is
your
so
band's
good.
your point every time. And like with that, your like songwriting, the riffs you bring out are unreal. We had this song that we've been working on lately called Instant Transmission. Both the A and B riff are so catchy. And he was talking about like Naoki was talking about my growth as a musician. He's driven a lot of that by having these interesting riffs that kind of like push me to think about different ways to like orchestrate my parts. And then on top of that, like a lot of times I tend to overthink things and I'll start playing something a little bit too complicated. And he kind of brings me back down to earth, like, hey, this needs to hit hard. Try this. I'm like, all right, bet. I try that. It's great, you know, and I wouldn't think to do that had he not brought it to light. And on top of being a rhythm musician, like you're so humble and down to earth and welcoming. Like you're just such a pleasure to be around all the time. Like anytime I hang out with you, I feel welcome. It's great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Great question. Wow. I feel like I'm like cherry tomato right now.
And my next question is about the EP itself, right? Because sometimes you get a band that puts out an album and you can tell it's just a collection of singles. I can tell with your EP that there was a lot of intention about telling a story along the way. How important was that for you guys to put it out in a way where all of the songs sort of build up off each other?
I think it is really important. And, kind of even touching back on something you said earlier about how, we really kind of thought about this and we didn't just throw it out there. This EP has been a long time in the making. We started playing, the four of us, about 2 years ago. And it took us 18 months before we decided to put that EP together. And, those songs we had been writing over the course of those 18 months. And we had written more songs that didn't make it on the EP. We were very judicious about the collection that we wanted to put out there that was going to be a representative story of, who we are at this moment in time.
Yeah, they all kind of just happened to fit like it was like pieces of a puzzle, and they all happened to fit together really nicely. Like the overall organization of the album was intentional, but like the pieces weren't intentionally meant to do that, but they ended up doing that.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very cool. I'm very happy with the way it all turned out.
Yeah, but I think it's also a function of like, again, we don't always play the same set, and so it's like, oh, we liked this song into this song or this song into this one, so kind of incorporating some of that into the sequencing, but then also again, like kind of showing like you can definitely put like in a little bit bigger body of work than a single kind of show more breadth. So we kind of wanted to show some of the different phases of the band and like, represent where we're at. But then also I think the potential of like, there's going to be songs that are more like this, a little more like this.
I think it helps that these songs were all written more or less around the same time, within, a few months of each other. I mean, Delirium and Prison of Belief were songs that I joined the band, then they've already written. And it's kind of, had some fun with the drum parts. But Purgatory, Null, Capacity, and Feigned, like, those were all written after I joined the band. And it was like, what, 6 to 8 months after I joined, we were playing Hall Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of, it made sense to have these 6 songs all at once because it kind of encapsulates like this era of this new band. You know, it captures where we are, where we were musically, where we were as people. Yeah.
And also a little bit of like those are the songs with like we only had like we recorded all the drums in just a day because this the BD, so it's like
Smash it.
which ones are we gonna knock out, you know? So it's just like a bit of, you know, a lot of different factors. But then like, you know, like anything in life, it's like, okay, we have like what can we make with what we have? And I'm really happy with what we made.
Now, if you're speaking to people who like listen to your EP and they like your music and they're on the fence about coming to an actual show, what would you tell them
Show's
that
bad.
they can expect when they see you guys perform live?
I think that it's not one of those things where it's like if you like the EP, you're kind of disappointed seeing us. Like I really love the kind of surreal aspect of like recorded music. Like we didn't like do a billion takes and nothing's like corrected or anything, but it is like, oh, there's vocal layering that isn't, you know, we can't replicate live, or, you know, I do this thing with the mellotron where it's like we do a little bit different thing, but I think that we really represent ourselves. Like I think we are number one alive fans, and you know, you will not be like disappointed with like, oh, he can't actually sing like that, or you know, he can't play those parts. Like it's gonna be there, it's gonna be good, and it's also like gonna be like what you were saying. It's gonna be that unique experience of that time where it's like, you know, you get to see a little bit different interpretations of those things, and you know, you get to be there when you know, like it's just it's I don't know, like I think that it's we're okay.
I think we're all authentic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what I think that what you can expect to see in the Cryptic show is authenticity. And it's you know, for dudes having a good time. You know, what you won't see is a focus on theatrics or, you know, stage moves. I I'm not gonna be swinging the guitar around me, you know, that's not gonna happen. But I am gonna be enjoying playing my music in front of people that hopefully enjoy it.
Yeah, you know, and if you're like on the fence about it, it's okay to go to a show and still just like pay attention and listen to it. Like you don't have to like go crazy or like be all up in there. Just you can just go and try to enjoy it, and you don't have to like no pressure to do anything at all. Like you don't have to like get up front row, mosh. I gotta yeah, like, just go. If you like the music, you should probably go. It's usually a good time.
All like super accessible. Like, you know, I think that go, you know, so you don't like just feel like, oh, I don't even know anybody there. Like people are really nice, you know. There's a lot of I think I'm in a really, really great community, but also like we try to, you know, we're there to give news. So it's like, you know, say yeah, say hey, you know, look at shows and like it's a welcoming environment, and I think that the worst thing that will happen is that you maybe have fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're just a bunch of dudes that like to play death metal and drink beer. So like, you know, we never take it too seriously. We're not going to be, you know, egotistical or anything, like kind of talking ourselves up or anything. Just come out, have a good time, drink some beers, and listen to some music, man. It's a good time.
And then, well, the question I have next is about like the feedback piece. And what I mean by that is I hear all the time from people that they're afraid to come up to the band after the show and tell you all how much they enjoyed the show. Can you put that to bed that you all are like the kind of people like, no, come tell us if you enjoyed it?
Yeah, for real. Come say hi, man. It's always such a pleasure. I love talking to people. I am a social butterfly for sure. Like, come say hey. You know, just have a good time.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier I'm an introvert, but that doesn't mean that I don't really enjoy talking to people about our art. Doesn't mean that I don't. You know, everybody enjoys a pat on the back. Everybody enjoys getting told that they did a good job. I think, you know, you're there. We're there to be social. We're not there to go back to the trailer afterwards and talk to nobody, or, we're not there to try to get $20 for a meet and greet. Like, that's just so not interesting to me.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is to just see really who's enjoying the music. And the best way to let us know that you're enjoying the music is to come tell us.
Yeah. The
Because
one
we
thing
have
I
this.
was,
Go ahead, Sebastian.
the one thing I would say is, wait till we're done getting our shit up off of the stage. That's the one where it's like you're trying to grab the cables and wants to shake your hand, and you're like, "Fucking dude, yeah, thank you." But like I can't be my best in that moment. I'm also like trying to be efficient, but like, yeah, I read out, and it's like you never know what people are gonna say either. Like, there's so many times where it's like nobody's ever like, "Oh, you guys sound like X, Y, or Z." And it's never what I would ever expect, and it's like it's fun to hear, like, there's no wrong answers. Like, just that you liked it's cool. There's even people where it's like, we just played in Cottage Grove and a lot of Chris's friends came up for that show and they're like, I don't really like death metal. I don't like the vocals, but like, you're really good at that. Like, how do you do that? And you're just like, oh, that's, it's still like very fun to like get that feedback and like, I'll put like, what I do. I don't fucking,
I mean, the bartender down there, she does not like metal at all.
Mhm.
So she was like, y'all need to come back.
So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I like we're just people and like, it's also like I think that saying those things where it's like, you know, we all like communicate, represent yourself and like, we're not better than anybody else and like, definitely we're there to be ourselves and be, just
A good time.
have a good time. Yeah.
And the last question that I'll ask, because we've been at this for about an hour now, is for the musicians that are up and coming, because we
Mhm.
recognize that being in music is hard work for not a lot of pay in the beginning. So
Mhm.
what advice would you give to musicians that are just starting out so that they don't give up? Because we need the next generation of musicians to come.
If you do it for fun, then you're already getting paid. Even for ourselves, we've played shows where we don't get paid anything, and I don't regret playing those shows. I think that if you approach it from an attitude that you're gonna get the most out of it just by doing it, then anything else is just icing on the cake.
I second that. It's like you can't take it too seriously. At the end of the day, you're just making art, and art's supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, then I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, like I think that music is for everyone. So it's like anybody listening to it, like, even just wants to dabble, like, like you can be older and like I just want to learn a few chords. Like that's very legitimate. And like I think that everybody should, who wants to should do it. I do think that a lot of people, there's a lot of influences that can kind of lead you astray on that path of like just doing it for fun, where it's like, maybe you want it to be successful, you want people to like it, you want people to be popular. And I think that a lot of those things are the wrong reasons. Like my advice to any creator is like make your favorite thing. Like, and then like Naoki was saying, where it's like that itself is its own reward. And like people are also gonna know where it's like they're excited about this and like, they're being authentic and like that matters. Like I think that we need we need a community here and like nobody should feel denied that they should make art and that it's okay. And then just do what you love and like it is hard work, it is practice, but like don't make it a mountain. Like, we're here to have fun in our lives and, follow your own joy. And then it's like you're not toiling. Just have fun practicing, have fun playing with your friends, play with people that you enjoy, take the opportunities, and then, manage your expectations. Like, especially playing extreme metal where it's like, you know, it's really cool to have finally gotten to a point where it's like, wow, we're getting more and more of these opportunities. But Naoki and I played together for 16 years. we used to empty out a bar. Like, they used to be like, we were not like, it's so funny. Like, we like, you guys are so incredible. Like, you play, like, and it's like, I love hearing that. But yeah, I definitely remember being 16, 17 years old and like, I'll finish my beer, fucking smoke. And, but you keep going because you're doing what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you guys hit all of those on the head. I'd say being authentic and like authentically, if you like to make music, you should make music and find people that resonate with it. And if you don't like the process of making the music, then maybe that should tell you something. But also, yeah, just like the whole business is kind of in a weird spot right now, so it's not necessarily something you should like bank on, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't not do it. Like you should, if it really like speaks to your soul, then you should probably still do it. And it should be for you, not for anybody else. It's a really selfish thing, but then once you put those little finishing touches on like certain parts that make you think a certain thing that like makes your hair stand up, somebody else resonates with that, that's like the best feeling you'll ever have.
Yeah.
But as far as like practical things for young up and coming people, I would say like just practice, keep your options open, and don't be afraid to say hey and like networking. And also just like being pleasant and professional in the whole environment, like as far as like booking and like be on time, have stuff laid out, just be ready, like think about all the little things. Maybe have like a t-shirt for your first show or something, or like you don't even have to have that, but it's just like all the little things, the logistical things.
Yeah.
That
Definitely don't be like me and forget the most important part of your drum set in the next town over.
Yeah, but like where it's like it is all there's so much more that like it to being in a band than just being in a band. Like there really is, especially like if you want to play shows and you want to have work and you want people to play with you, like, you can be the nicest guy in the world if you like completely aren't capable. Like, I'm sorry, but like can't we can't play the thing. And the other way, where it's like you can be amazing if you're a jerk. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna play with you. And the venue staff, they talk to one another. To where it's like, yeah, this guy was incredibly difficult to work with. Like, I'm not booking him again. I wouldn't recommend booking him. It's a small industry. And then also help other people along your way, to me, where it's like there's so many people that I'm thankful for that have come before us to give us a hand up. So it's like if you ever get in a place where, don't be scared of sharing your success with somebody. As much as I reference like, oh, in the moment on stage I'm competitive, but it's like I want everybody to win. Like, I want everybody to have a great set. Like, I want this whole thing to go good for everyone. So, and like, I think that that's one of the reasons people like playing with us is like, we'll open, we don't care. We'll play second, we'll play third. Like, we're not down to share stuff. And like, I think that that just goes such a long way. And like, it makes the industry so much healthier.
Yeah. I think the last thing I would say is on a technical note for for up and coming musicians is to keep in mind the iron triangle, which is like there's many iron triangles, but for a band, what I consider to be the iron triangle is the people you play with, the music that you play, and then the business of trying to have a band. And if you're at all familiar with iron triangles, you can only sacrifice one of those things and maintain the integrity of your triangle. So for us, it's people and music. The business is tertiary and in some aspects cannot matter.
Wow, I don't know about triangles.
No, that's only a lie now.
So I'm not.
And the most important question, where can people go to find you?
CrypticDivination.com.
CrypticDivination.com, CrypticDivination.com.
Yeah.
Or in every streaming service on the face. And also CrypticDivination.com.
Yeah.
At Cryptic Divination on Instagram.
Yeah, we're pretty accessible. We got email, we got the website, we got the Instagram, we're on streaming platforms. We want to be as accessible as possible. So I think If you want to find us, you will find us.
Yeah. I mean, do booking, you can DM us, you can email us for our website. We got all of our shows pretty updated. So if you're looking to catch us live, shows you where we're playing and when. You can also look at a cool list of all the shows that we played. Divination.com.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. And hear it from me, guys. If you haven't checked out their EP, you have to, and you need to go see these people live. So I will I will end the show the way I always end the show. Folks, be kind. We all live on the same planet. We breathe the same air. This world would be just a little bit better of a place if we treat thanks, respect. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
for having us.
It was a pleasure.